We have been talking for the last however many months about the Ja Morant suspension. It dropped on Friday, 25 games with some prerequisite things he has to hit, some whatever benchmarks he has to hit before he can come back. Lots of interaction online about it. What are your guys' thoughts?
I thought 25 was actually one of the more heavy. That was the heavier side of the punishment I thought he was going to get from a game perspective.
That's exactly my thoughts. I think that is like the highest.
Yeah, I thought it was heavy-handed. It was pretty heavy-handed.
Because you mentioned last week, Miles Bridges, 30 games for domestic violence. So
And by the way, like with the Miles Bridges thing, like there's pictures out of what he did to his kid and his
it's
significant other. It's
it's legit.
It's scary.
Yes.
And like, man, 25, whatever. I thought that I guess 20 to 25. So again, I thought this was pretty heavy-handed. I knew that Adam Silver was going to be heavy-handed because Ja is not just a normal.
He's a superstar.
He's not a normal star in the NBA. He's a guy you want to be the face of the NBA with LeBron aging and Steph aging and KD aging. So I figured he'd be more heavy-handed. But I wonder how this all goes over. Like, is the NBA Players Association going to convict? Because they said, Tamika Tremiglio, their executive vice president, said that she's not happy really with the suspension and unspecified conditions to return, which, I think is bizarre that they didn't lay out really anything.
Right.
Maybe Ja has it.
It was pretty broad.
Maybe Ja has it.
Right.
But she says she's not happy with it. I wonder if the Players Association convinces Ja to ultimately appeal.
Right.
And you wouldn't be appealing for Ja. Like, I think people have a misconception about when I say the appellate process for Ja. It's not about Ja. It's about the precedent that it sets for the rest of the NBA players. And do they want that to be the precedent for, conduct detrimental to the NBA? Because that could be a lot of things.
Right.
There's no law that was broken. So you have to be careful about setting a precedent like that. So people will say, Ja shouldn't do it because it sort of goes against the statement he gave out and it feels like he'd be stepping back and he's not showing remorse. Sure, I guess you could view it through that lens, but in the end of the day, if he ends up appealing, I don't think it's about him.
No, it's the whole Players Association.
It's the whole Players Association and him agreeing to let them do what they need to do in the name of the players long term.
Yeah.
That's what it would be about.
Yeah. And I want to talk about in a second what we think that 25 games will look like, how they will fare. But I want to go to Ja's statement and his kind of apology and what he said. You never know. You never know, if someone means it, if it's heartfelt.
Words are hollow anyway with him right now.
Absolutely. It's all about actions. But this felt so much more reflective and introspective than any other public statement that he has made since the first incident. Like, this felt
I agree.
I understand
wholeheartedly.
I understand the magnitude of this situation, not only on my team, my family, all these, my team, my family.
Robert Pera, Adam Silver.
Yes.
Said all the names.
Right. Yes. Everyone in the organization, everyone in the NBA organization, also the Grizzlies organization, and then people that look up to him as role models. Like, I feel like he hit everything, and it felt more real to me. It felt more like, okay, my eyes are more opened up to this. Like, in the first couple of times that he spoke after the first incident, I just felt like, and once again, this is a feel-like thing. We don't know how he's actually.
The Jalen Rose interview was just.
But it's all optics. Like, it's just what we can see. We don't know Ja's heart. We don't know how he actually felt in that situation. I'm sure he just felt attacked and like everyone was against him. It just didn't come off like he really cared. And I know a lot of people have said that. This statement, and I know it wasn't, on video or audio, it was typed out, but it just felt more heartfelt. It felt more real, and it felt like, okay, I understand the repercussions of my actions and how this affects every layer of my life and, potentially of this organization and stuff like that. So I think, at least from that perspective, I feel a lot better about it because it seems like, he gets it.
I agree wholeheartedly because when he did that Jalen Rose interview, as much as I wanted to believe what he was saying, like, it just felt so rehearsed and so forced.
Like just shrugging it off.
Yeah, and even when Jalen Rose asked him about certain incidents, he's like, He would defer. It was about the Pacers incident with the supposed red dot and his friends getting into it. He's like, well, the NBA investigated. They didn't find anything. He gave it the victim.
It felt very political.
Yeah, it felt like he tried to play the victim role with that particular situation, and nothing was just overly genuine. He gave short answers, didn't really show that he was contrite. It's a statement that felt a little more real than anything else, and like you could tell. Usually you think lawyers and PR people handle that full. It seemed like him. Straight up, all that. It felt like Ja put something out there. They edited it a little bit and put his little twist on it. His thoughts and feelings out there in the statement. It just felt more genuine than anything. Yes. And I know, again, it's a damn statement that you read on paper. So like, I don't know how much you can really take into it. But everything from here is the big focus, though, right? Yes. It has the 25 games. We'll talk about it in a second. Cool. You know, he's going to be away from the team for that period of time. That's what they expect to potentially get him back right. But getting him back right is about doing everything behind the scenes to support him and putting him in better positions off the floor, I think, ultimately. And that's on him, first and foremost.
Okay, so what is successful in this 25 games? Is it obviously you can't be
winning record?
You can't be 500 because it's 25 games, but is it 3 or 4 games either north or south of 500? Is it winning record? What is successful, and where do you feel comfortable at as far as playoff hopes and all that? Obviously that's early in the season, but what makes you feel the most comfortable?
Well, it also depends like what the damn roster is going to look like before we get there. Like, is Tyus still on the team? I mean, successful, I don't think it's successful. I'd feel good about 13-12, for God's sakes.
Oh, of course.
I'd feel good about that. But I think successful, you try to get out of that thing with a winning record.
I think even if you're 2 to 5, 10 and 15, that's not insurmountable.
No, but it's
sketchier.
That's a hole to dig yourself in the Western Conference.
But 12 and 13, I just don't feel that concerned about that.
No, I don't. But I think if you're talking about what's successful 13 and 12, give me a winning record coming out of those 25 games, then Ja gets back involved.
Here is what.
But I don't think even if they have Tyus still on the team going into next year and everything else is healthy, with the exception of Brandon Clark, I think they could be better than 13 and 12 if Tyus is still there.
15 and 10 is definitely
reasonable. Then again, it's like you get into that conversation of, well, do you trade Tyus? Do you not trade Tyus? I still think if you find something out there where you can trade Tyus, you trade Tyus.
Yeah.
Where you feel like after these 25 games going into the future, you're in a better spot. If you trade Tyus, you trade Tyus.
Here's what excites me. The keys are going to be fully handed to Jaren Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
He has to be the scorer.
Yep.
He has to be
and Dez.
I'm not going to say he has to be.
Jaren's got to be. He's got to be there every night.
Jaren is top of the pyramid. And with the development that we saw at the end of last year when Ja was out, and just his overall development over his course of his NBA career, I feel like this can be another huge step for him. 25 games is a really good sample size, a quarter of the year. And that gives him a lot of time to continue upon what he started to build at the end of last year. And he's obviously fully capable. We saw it. Like, he is completely capable of being a 25 to 30 points per game scorer if it's just him as the guy. So I think with all the momentum that he's built, if he obviously stays healthy through the summer and through that part of the season, I think we see Jaren take an even bigger step towards, that kind of superstardom, high level all-star level. Like, I think that obviously you don't want your best player to be out. But the positive side to it is we really could see some awesome development for Jaren. I think that's fully on the table, and then for Desmond Bane as well.
I agree, but I'm going to do the Desmond Bane route of this. Especially if there's no Tyus, ball will be in his hands.
Yep.
Go. Make something happen. The numbers he could put up without Ja in the first 25 games of the year, with the amount of shots he's going to be available to take, we know he's a good three-point shooter.
You get to see him become a true 3-level scorer, though, at that point.
Yeah, you're going to have to see Desmond Bane be absolutely electric. And we saw it early last year until he got hurt and had his foot issue. So I expect when we talk about leaps at this point, I'm not talking about like massive leaps. Like I think both those guys can still improve. They're young as hell.
Right.
Jaren's 23, Dez is what, 24, 25.
Yeah.
Like they're still going to improve throughout their careers, but I think next year without Ja, like the leadership part of it, the taking onus for the entire team part of it is going to be new to them, and I think they can learn a lot of lessons by doing that early in the season with Ja completely away from the facility, probably, in all likelihood.
All right, Kenny,